Welcome in Eclipse and Dip, episode 32 of season 2. I'm Adam Oslin. We got Chuck Mockler and Will Updike here, and a very good show for you guys. Coming up later, Clippers on a big 3-game road trip, some tough ones in Indiana, Dallas, OKC. We'll preview those games. We'll also take your questions. We put it out at Clippers Pod on Twitter, and you guys responded to it. We wanted to know what you guys were thinking about. We'll react to those. But thanks to all the new subscribers. We got a lot of them right now coming on YouTube. And I hope you're watching this there because Chuck just put a thumbs up. And now he got a graphic thumbs up because we have some augmented reality crazy stuff going on here at Clippers Podcast on YouTube is where you find us. Can I get it? Can I get the fireworks when I go thumbs up? No fireworks.
So,
No Rainbow Road Mario Kart for me, but it's good to be with you guys. Chuck, we'll start with you. How you been?
I'm feeling good. This 7-game win streak, we're going to talk about it, but it really makes it feel like the West is like last year when we talked about the West being wide open. The Clippers are very close to second place right now, which is surprising after what happened. So I'm feeling good. It's the holiday season. I wish it was colder in LA, but the Clippers are winning. So, can't complain about too much.
Big Will, big dub last night. How you feeling?
Feeling good. Double big dub last night. Also want to give a shout out to the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
University of Montana, Charles and I's alma mater. They're headed to a national championship.
Let's
so just wins on wins over here. But yeah, I'm doing great. Excited about these Clippers, man. I got to tell you that I'm nearly a full 180 from where I was a mere 2 weeks ago.
Is this about the roddening? The rod again?
The roddening?
Well, hey, they haven't lost since.
They haven't.
Came on the show. And the Clippers have won 7 straight. They've won 12 of their last 15. They win last night in impressive fashion. I have to say, I know the New York Knicks were on a back-to-back, but the Clippers handled their business. Chuck, what has stood out to you most during this 7-game winning streak right now?
I mean, it's just James Harden. Well, there's two main things. It's James Harden steadily increasing his aggression within the offense and taking control of it as kind of the main driver. And then there's obviously Kawhi Leonard playing at, maybe as the best player in the league right now. Probably
God tier.
Yeah, God tier, as some would say. So it's probably James Harden, I think. I put this in the show notes, but are we surprised that the reigning assist leader is still able to hand out assists a mere one season after? How shocked are we?
It's just wild. It's just wild that the guy who has been one of the best at playmaking in his career over the last 15 years pretty much can still do it. And how many people didn't know that he could do that stuff? It's crazy.
Well, I feel like that's just the cliched thing that went around, right? Like even when he was in MVP contention, I feel like people were surprised at the passes because a lot of times when he was initiating for himself, it's a very dribble heavy, ball dominant sort of thing. But this isn't anything new. And if you've watched his game, this isn't really anything new. It's great that it's finally clicking with the Clippers. But unexpected, I would say, is a bridge too far for me.
Did you hear that, casuals? This is nothing new, Will says.
Casuals were attacking casual fans now.
Hey, there were so many people down on the James Harden trade, guys. And what we've seen in this turnaround has been, it's not unprecedented, it's not shocking, but it has been fun to watch. Like Clipper Nation, I tweeted last night, this is one of the best runs in the 2-1-3 era. What we're seeing, this brand of basketball, the level of dominance because of the competition they have faced during this run over the last 15 games, and they are beating really good teams in impressive fashion. I don't think you can say enough about the impact of James Harden in all this.
Yes, he's been fantastic. There's one thing I wanted to note kind of about yesterday. Are we worried about the defense at all, or just the one-off from yesterday? There was a lot of points given up to a Knicks team that is okay, but are we more so just happy that everything's clicking on offense?
There's a lot of possessions.
Yeah, I'm not knocking. I'm just asking the question.
You score 144. Yeah, they might have 120. They still won by 22 points.
Always be better. You can always be better.
All right, Will.
Gotta hold them sub 100. Come on, man.
Yeah, I wanted this. Yeah, look, I took the Clippers minus 47.5. I was in a bad spot. No, Adam, what have you liked other than James Harden right now? What stuck out for you in this 7-game win streak?
I think I said it on the last show, but Kawhi Leonard, guys, this is the best version of him since tearing the ACL. How can it not be? 63% from the field, 60% from three, 90% from the free throw line in his last 9 games. Those 9 are post the Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan victory with the Denver Nuggets over the Clippers. Ever since then, when Kawhi got up those 26 shots and only scored 31 points, and then last night he has 36 points on just 16 shots. Ever since that game against Denver, it looked like Kawhi Leonard just shot himself out of a slump, and that's all it was all along. For all the worry and concern over Kawhi Leonard and him getting off to a slow start this season and Paul George being the best Clipper, and can you really win long-term that way? Kawhi Leonard is back to being the number 1 player on the team, the alpha, the guy who's a top 3 player in the league, and nobody's really playing better so far in December. I was trying to look up just historically to put this in perspective. What are some of the greatest runs in a 10-game sample size in a month in NBA history? And of course, you get a lot of Wilt Chamberlain, you get Kobe Bryant, you get Michael Jordan.
Basketball, your favorite stats to look at.
No, it was great what he did back in the day against 7 other teams, and very impressive stuff.
So mad.
Not mad, just facts. But I was looking up because Kobe has had some insane months where he's averaged over 40 points in a month. James Harden did
James
that
Harden has
back in 2019 with the Houston Rockets. But there was one month with Michael Jordan in 1990 where actually it wasn't a month. I was trying to find something that's just close to what Kawhi Leonard's doing. And while he's only at a tick under 30 points per game during this span of 9 games with all this efficiency, those guys obviously were scoring in the 40s, but the efficiency wasn't there at this level. Larry Bird had a month that was around this level before, I think back in 1986, where he was close to touching 60% from the floor. But all those guys, Kawhi shooting 60% from 3. Jordan was hardly taking any back then. Kobe was taking them. Larry Bird was taking some, but it wasn't a lot. To be doing this on a steady diet of mid-range shots and 3-pointers and getting to the basket here and there, it's unreal. Like, this is something we may never see again by someone in a Clippers uniform, the type of hot streak that Kawhi Leonard's been on.
Will, we talked about it a little bit. I feel like my concern for like maybe the legs or anything like that kind of keeps going away. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can't see the funny names we give each other. How are you feeling about that? Because he looks great physically. There's no slow start or anything like that. Like, I'm not as worried about some burnout or anything like that. We talked about some rotation crunch a little bit last episode, but we got some questions about that. But right now it seems like Ty Lue's kind of pulling all the right strings and playing the guys when they want to, which is when they're healthy.
Amir.
Okay, we'll talk about Amir, but well,
we've touched on this a little bit, and obviously, if the minutes are constantly as high as just sub 40, like we talked about, that's not great. But I feel like as things continue to pick up, it's like an initial investment where the minutes were high because it took that much longer for everything to click together, that hopefully things get a little bit easier. And that's what we saw in the New York game, really. Yeah. Like, I think the starter with the longest minutes was Paul George at 32. And that is what I expect to see, especially in easier stretches of the season. Not sure if that'll be the case with this upcoming sort of rougher stretch that will be a test. But no, look, man, the stuff with Kawhi, it generally hasn't been like, oh man, his minutes load has been so insane, he's had to carry the team too much. It's been like weird freak shit, dude. Like, I mean, how else would you describe it? How else would you describe like the Paul George injury? Like, I don't know. I mean, Paul George's shoulder thing, that was very clearly an overuse issue, like back in OKC when he had to do a lot.
And shoulder stuff is weird because you can like wait to do the surgery. Like,
well, it's like
quarterbacks
the
have
thing with
weird
the
stuff
knee too. Like you can scrape some of the cartilage. You can do
Yeah.
like a full repair. You know, if there's a partial, blah 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 blah. Whatever. But I think that to me it shouldn't be as worrisome. Like really, it's just about playing the right way and hopefully getting into situations where like you don't have to put your body on the line or be desperate. And that's what we're seeing right now. So I think, yeah, I don't know that the minutes is a big thing, but you know, less the better, of course. But
Sure.
there were points I'm not used to seeing someone this good in a Clippers uniform. Like there were moments in that New York game
games in a row. Yeah.
there were moments in that New York game where I literally went, huh, and then remember that he was on our side. It got like it's that.
Whoa!
It's just, dude. It's just it's so inevitable. It's scary. It's scary to me. It's scary to me, and he's on our side.
It's scary hours for everyone, including Clippers fans, watching how good Kawhi is.
It's a unique hell we live in as Clippers
dude, those
fans.
first quarter dunks too from Zoo and Kawhi, it was like, what is happening? Where are we?
And Zoo has been, Zoo's playing also his best basketball right now. Like, there's a lot of guys playing some of their best basketball the 2 and 3 era at the same time.
You know, it was I don't think we talked enough about the potential to unlock Zoo in the Harden trade.
Some people thought we talked about it too much, but
it was definitely
we can't talk about Harden still, right? I mean,
there was definitely the possibility, right? But I mean, he's just going to be a walking double-double, I think, for the rest of the season. And I just his confidence is in it's just on another level from him getting all these other touches, and it's carrying over on both ends of the floor. And I mean, I know I've been bringing it up every podcast. I just can't. I didn't know that Zoo necessarily had this level, and I've been a huge Zoo proponent, but man, I did not see this coming, and hopefully he can continue this streak.
Well, Justin Russo wrote about we just plugged Justin Russo's Substack like 3 times an episode now, it feels like, but it's really good and you should check it out.
He came on pregame with me yesterday. What a guy.
He's great. But he wrote one about Zubac's defensive impact, and he gets a sheet that Zoo gets, and like Zoo knows what he's doing defensively and things like that. And now he's also getting rewarded by James Harden being here with getting fed in the pick and roll and stuff. So like, it's the perfect combination for Zoo because he's motivated on defense, and now he's also with the best pick and roll, you know, other than maybe Lou Will, but they never really ran it together, unfortunately. Like the best pick and roll guy maybe ever.
You know, this conversation and what Will just brought up there reminded me of people being so against
an old stat. Did it remind you of an old stat?
No, this isn't some 50 points, you know, back in the day in the 1960s or anything like that for a season.
Sorry, no, get back to your point. I apologize.
It reminded me of just how much people were against James Harden to the point we weren't allowed to talk about him.
People got
Do you remember this?
Yeah. We had to
this
put
isn't that long ago.
Yeah.
This isn't that long ago. Stop talking about James Harden. Stop it. It's stupid. I don't like his style of play. I had a caller last night. This guy's Sean in Inglewood, and I've been giving him a hard time because he, after James Harden hit the 4-point play to take down Houston to end the losing streak, this guy has my email address. He's a longtime listener on Clippers Talk, and he hits me up sporadically. He has an affinity for big men. If he hears this talk about Will Chamberlain, he will come through the screen and attack me. But he always
doesn't have your home address too, does he?
I hope not, man. I don't think he knows how to dox, but he seems like an older gentleman, but I like him. I love him, even though we disagree often. He wants to start Mason Plumlee next to Ivica Zubac. I mean, he just wants craziness out there.
Yeah.
Because he thinks that's how you have to win, and he has no idea about spacing in the modern era and what that does for you and everything. But as soon as James Harden hit that shot to beat Houston, I get an email from him. I still don't want him. I still don't like him. That's what we've been dealing with. And we're still dealing with it to some degree with the Russ stands who maybe are standing down somewhat and backing off a little bit because Russ looks so damn happy. Even just playing 15 minutes last night, he's all smiles. He's standing up, cheering guys on.
My pick for player of the game. He played great. 5 for 7.
He did. He had a great stretch in the third quarter where I thought he took a couple of ill-advised shots.
Sure.
A jumper and a three-pointer. They call a timeout, and what does he do? He goes right to the basket and gets a couple of tough buckets into the third and then in the fourth quarter. I love the way he's playing, but I just hope everybody's rallying around this team at this point.
You got it.
Should there be any more division within Clippers Nation with the way they're playing now? I think, even if they go on a losing streak, what if they lose all three of these on the road? I think we still know there is something there. There is a very high ceiling with this team, and I think a pretty high floor in the regular season after you see a game where Paul George is out and James Harden goes, okay, I'll drop 28 on like 12 shots.
He was my player of the game, just by the way. He showed up.
No, I had that receipt somewhere here. Let me go find that.
Let me get my receipt.
I just want us all to get behind this because it's working. It's the right formula. The blueprint is there, and 2-1-3 is back up. And what I said when they got James Harden, that he can unlock the best version of Kawhi and Paul George, we're starting to see some of that. We're seeing it with Kawhi right now. I mean, the effortlessness that he goes about getting those shots, he's not having to just dribble an ISO. We are seeing less ISO ball with James Harden. How crazy is that? Going into this, everybody's, we can't play ISO ball. We do that enough already, and now you're going to add James Harden. What's this offense going to look like? No, there's less ISO ball being played now with James. I just can't stress enough how good he's been and how much he has stuck to everything he has said in that introductory press conference.
That is true. He has held up his end of the bargain so far with that stuff. I want to, before we get to the Clippers questions, I like what you said about kind of if this next really tough stretch of games doesn't go well, 2-1 would be great, obviously. It's still important to remember what we're seeing now, which is maybe the close to, or at least, on the way to the pinnacle of what this Clippers team can be offensively and defensively. So we've now seen it, which is something that is kind of rare sometimes in the 2-3 era. We had all this potential and we'd see it for flashes. We've now seen it for 7 straight games. Just the wins I'm talking. We saw the process start earlier too, but this is where this team can go. They're still kind of going up and to the right. So it's important to remember if things don't go as well as we want them to this next week. But the last thing I wanted to talk about in this segment is this the year the West is wide open? The Clippers are 1.5 games out of the 2 seed after a 10-10 start. This is, yes, they've obviously won 7 in a row, but this might be a little bit like last year when we were so upset that they, kind of messed around and didn't take care of regular season business as much because the West was so wide open. This is there's very good teams in the West, but this is a brutal conference right now. And I think that helps the Clippers because the other teams are kind of, eating each other's chances at success. Am I wrong in thinking that? I'm kind of leaning towards this is the year it's a little more wide open.
I mean, I guess in the standings, Minnesota has a fairly hardy lead. I think they're like 3.5 games up from second place. But looking at the teams ahead of the...
Sorry. Yeah, 3.
Okay. What did I say?
3.5.
Okay, important correction. Thanks.
It might be. You never know.
Thanks, dude.
Leave
the receipts to Adam. Leave the receipts to Adam.
Not a receipt, not a transaction in the moment.
I'm moving on from receipt season, and you can keep a receipt on this. All right.
What? Whoa, that's breaking news.
It's time for humility season, guys. I've been right way too often lately, and it's not going to last.
All right.
I'm trying to get out in front of it now.
This is taking an evil villain turn. Will, sorry, continue.
So, I mean, in terms of openness, I mean, looking at the standings right now.
Should we screen share?
Who ahead? I mean, other than the Nuggets, who ahead of the Clippers right now would you say you fear, like really, truly fear in a 7-game series?
I fear Kawhi, as we talked about earlier.
We're scared. Trapped in a prison of... No, I don't know if the Timberwolves' half-court defense is going to be this good the whole year. I think, did you say other than the Nuggets?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe the Timberwolves just because the defense, because Rudy Gobert is playing an absurd level of basketball right now. I don't know if that's going to continue through the whole year. If it does, I would say the Timberwolves would be my second, but everyone else is pretty close to them, and I'm still feeling confident about the Clippers as of December 17th, 6:07 p.m.
In terms of the question to start with, the jumping off point here from Chuck, is this the year it's wide open? It's wide open until some team ascends, just like it was last year. Now we look back and go, oh, well, Denver was clearly the best team, and they swept the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. But at the time, it felt like, okay, the Phoenix Suns could win. If the Clippers can somehow get past them and get Paul George back, I believe they had a shot against the Denver Nuggets, but we knew the Lakers were good. Memphis was good last season. It feels similar. There's no super team with Golden State and Kevin Durant anymore to fear. There's a lot of really good teams, but I'm probably most scared of the OKC Thunder just because of their potential, because of the assets they have still. And if they want to trade in some of those chips and bring in Markkanen or somebody else, they can outbid anyone out there. There's nobody that can compete with them with all the first round picks they have. Of course, we're very aware of that. But SGA, Chet playing this well, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, this team is scary because they also have something about them where they look wise beyond their years. They're winning these games down the stretch with really easy efficiency where they just step on your throat or hit a big shot, and they act like they've been there before when they really haven't. That's what's strange to me. This OKC team, I don't know. These young guys, they are focused. They have a mentality there. They have a culture there. Now, you can still say they haven't beaten anybody in a 7-game series, and we don't know what SGA is going to look like as the number one option in a 7-game series when you are scheming every game for the same dude and stopping him. But I do have concerns about OKC just because they can still make a big talent upgrade, and they're already number 2 right now in the West.
I know, like a bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, it cuts both ways. Like, I guess I didn't include them on my scary teams just because, we haven't seen it in the playoffs. But that can swing both ways. It's not that's not crazy to think at all.
The Clippers have already made the Mavericks, a team with a superstar point guard who kills them, quote unquote, every time, despite losing the series. It would be hard to have another team like that, right? Like this would be very similar to those Mavs battles and whatnot. That would be that's a good pick, Adam. That's an interesting series to think about.
But the Timberwolves aren't. I guess Chuck mentioned the Timberwolves, but other than that, nobody's feeling it.
Yeah.
I think the Lakers are really good, and Phoenix can't get it together right now with having Bradley Beal healthy on the floor.
They might lose to the Spurs again tonight for like the second time or something.
But they could have a Clipper. They could definitely have a Clippers-esque turnaround. Like they put together a little streak.
Yeah, their roster.
Defensively, they're not great. I don't know how they get to an elite level defensively. We said it. Losing DeAndre Ayton for Nurkic is not an upgrade. I understand that DeAndre Ayton wasn't going to play ball there, so to speak, but Nurkic can get played off the floor pretty easily. He typically didn't close games for the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't know what they're going to do there. So none of these teams are fully formed. None of these teams are finalized roster-wise, including the Clippers.
Which we're going to talk about. Yeah.
But just looking at it right now, the one team that I know could go out there and make a huge move, and it doesn't even take a lot of sacrifice from them to do so because they have this wealth, this treasure
money
trove,
on the books,
this war chest of picks. They can go out there. If Markkanen's next to Chet in the front court, guys, that is unbelievable.
It's a really good 4 for the Thunder to have.
That is a tough team to stop. That is a really tough team to stop.
Would Lauri Markkanen would he fall victim to Oklahoma City nightlife?
Yeah, that's what happened to Jeff Green, right? That's why he had to get out of there.
Yeah, he had to go. There's a lot to do. You can do a lot of stuff before 9 p.m.
Derek Fisher struggled there too because of it. Just wild.
Derek Fisher. All right, coming up.
Practically the same as Houston nightlife, right?
Yeah. Per Tomer Azerly. What's the difference between Houston and Oklahoma, I believe was the question. Coming up, we're going to be answering some fantastic Clippers questions. We can only gush about how good the Clippers have been over these last 7 games so much. One of these questions is from one of our hosts, which is going to be a very fun time.
Wait a second.
The guy who recently said he's not doing receipts earlier today sent a question that we're going to get to. Anyway, the ads have been loud for some people. We've had a couple people on Twitter. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but they've been tweeting at me. They said, one of them said, I used to roll my eyes when you would make the ad disclaimer until this week when I got blasted by an ad. And I said, hey, it's a joke that's actual advice 15% of the time. And they should heed it. So if that's been happening, you go ahead and turn it down. We got ads and then questions coming up in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome back into Clips and Dip. We just gushed about the Clippers and their 7-game win streak, turning things around. But we wanted to take your questions. You can leave those, even if we don't ask for them, over on Twitter. That's at Clippers Pod. But let's kick it off with Adam. For some reason, is in this mailbag. Adam, you want to go ahead and ask your question? You want to answer it too, or?
I mean, I was joking. I didn't think I was actually going to be included here. I did ask, who's catching receipts on Kawhi? Is it Kendrick Perkins? Who's been the most outspoken?
Brian Windhorst. It's Brian Windhorst. That clip of when he talked about how he doesn't look healthy and all that stuff.
From last year?
Yeah, it's Brian Windhorst. Or
he, though, has been trying to own it. Recently, he's trying to reverse that. He said something to the effect of, the scariest development right now in the NBA is how good Kawhi Leonard has looked over the past couple of weeks. So he's trying to get back in our good graces.
All right. He can come on the show. He can come on the show. Then that's fine.
I do have my Kawhi Leonard Black Panther bobblehead with me today.
There we go.
Just because he's been that amazing. I got to keep him close at all times.
Well, and also you're so terrified of how good he is. We got
that dunk he had with the left hand in the first quarter that Will was talking about earlier.
He's also Kawhi's the bobblehead giveaway on the 23rd, right? It's like a Christmas giveaway.
Yeah, Santa Claus with a K.
Hell yeah, that's pretty sick.
LAWS.
All right, we're gonna get to a real question next, unless we have anything else to add to Adam's question.
No, I like I said, no more receipts, guys. Humility season is upon us.
I love that it's humility season because he's been right so much.
Well, guys, I know the pendulum's going to swing back the other way at some point, and I want to get out ahead of this and make sure I'm not still talking so much crap when it does happen.
Next question is from Manny A80. We just talked about some trades in the last one. He said, do you think the Clippers need to trade for some size at power forward to match up better against some of the taller teams like the Nuggets and Wolves? Where are we at on this? I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that Plumlee's hurt. If Plumlee's not hurt, we have 2 actual 7-foot centers. So I think the size question really goes away at that point because we can have one of those guys on the floor probably we haven't even gotten to unleash a tight Plumlee front court. Yeah, wow, we are waiting for that. But I don't know if the trade is out there because the Clippers, like their most tradable pieces, they're not trading Norm because he's playing way too good to trade. Like the only guys they would trade, PJ Tucker wants to leave for more time. He's a 4. Right? Like Amir Coffey is playing very well, but someone who people throw into these trade ideas, like the people they would trade are 4s, I guess, except for like 1 or 2 guards. So I just don't know if the trade is out there. Like there's not a margin trade that I don't think the Clippers can make to satisfy this want. Not to say that it's a real issue.
Am
I wrong?
Bojan? What do you think the asking price is for Bojan right now?
Fuck the Pistons, man. God damn. Shout out to anyone who's a Pistons fan. I hope you're doing okay. But he's hurt so much though. So
it's an upside trade. No, that's how good this 7-game win streak has been, right? That it's hard. It's hard to conceptualize even like shuffling around pieces right now because it feels like we've got a really good thing going. And I do think teams can, over adjust. They can overdo it. And is this the year that we finally don't see a big move from the Clippers?
Maybe the move was already made. They got James Harden. Mason Plumlee's coming back. And that's somebody, when we talked about backup second units and how those should look so they can not bleed minutes nearly as much as they have at times early on this season, Mason Plumlee cures a lot of what ails them there. Like you talk about not wanting to go small. If Plumlee's healthy and Zubats is there, they never really have to go small. They can always have a true 7-footer out there on the floor. So the question is to me whether or not Daniel Tice can play the 4. If he can play the 4 effectively, which means he probably is going to have to knock down more shots, and he has been okay. I don't know what the numbers are from 3, Chuck.
They've been, so that's the thing is like Daniel Tice's numbers. Sorry, you're gonna hear some typing sounds. His stats from 3 have been absurd.
But how many is he taking?
Charles, a famous doubter of Tice's shooting.
I am a famous doubter of Tice's shooting based on years and years of statistical evidence. He is taking 1.1 per game, and he's hitting them at a 40% rate. So he's not. This isn't.
Because they have left him wide open.
And it's 1.1 more than fucking PJ Tucker's taking, so it would be better than PJ Tucker playing the 4, right? Like, I will say that.
He had one season where he shot something around 38% from the outside in his career, but he's a 32% career 3-point shooter.
32.7%. He shot 37.5% in 23. That was this year.
You can't give me the 38. Will, what is up with that? I mean, my God.
Oh, wait, no, sorry. 38.8%, 2018, 2019 on how many attempts per game? Will, how many attempts?
0.5.
Adam?
Oh, 0.75.
Firm 1, a firm 1.0. So again, I'm
pretty
not
good.
wrong. He's
Pretty
not
good.
an outside threat. He can. It's just not.
I think that's a threat.
It's a big foundational change, I think, for his game. To be a catch and shooter, like he's not a catch and shooter.
You want to nickname him Empty Threat? How dare you, Chuck?
That's actually
Tice Baby's much better.
No, okay. I won't nickname him Empty Threat. If he starts not doing effort, he'll be Empty Threat. But no, he's just not a shooting threat. So I think I agree with what you're saying with him with the 4, but I think he'd have to take they're just going to keep sagging off him. Other teams are just going to dare him to shoot.
Let me ask you guys this, because you brought up something earlier that I think is key, and it's a shift in mentality from Clipper Nation, because coming into this season, a lot of people were thinking, oh, Norman Powell can still be that trade chip for later on in the season, possibly. Yeah, about that. Norman Powell's been far too valuable. The Powell Rangers have been too strong.
Hell yeah.
I think I just put up the number earlier, the most recent numbers when it comes to the Powell Rangers.
Do you want to screen share it?
With Norm, no. Next to James, Kawhi, PG, Zoo. In 48 minutes, they're plus 35 in 10 games. They're shooting 50% from the floor and 40.5% from the outside. They got an offensive rating of 122 and a defensive rating of 97, a net rating of plus 25.2. It's only 48 minutes. I got to think part of the reason is Coach Lou has seen enough. He likes it enough, and he doesn't want to give too much game tape out there on what could be their death lineup eventually with this team.
I like that idea.
Because it's too effective not to have played more than just 48 minutes. But
we've fell under this spell before, though. We have seen lineups that have been good for a small amount of time and then never saw them again at some point. But I think you are right in this particular instance with how everyone is playing and the roster crunch a little bit. It's like an 8.5-man rotation. I do think you're right.
My question, though, then shifts to this. If Norm isn't the trade chip, does Mason Plumlee become the trade chip?
I think his value, because of the injury.
Trade for what?
Yeah. A 4?
Well, for that other wing. If you think they are down a wing and it's getting close to February in the trade deadline, and Ivica Zubats is Mr. Reliable, and you have Daniel Tice, and he's still playing this good or even better, how do you get minutes for he and Mason Plumlee? Daniel Tice was balling against Isaiah Hartenstein last night. That was a really fun battle, and they were similar in some ways. You brought it up, Chuck, on Twitter.
Well, same tattoo artist. They have to. The Clippers can't get smaller. They can't. I don't think the Clippers could trade out. They're already small when Zoo's not on the floor. I think they have. If Mason is and should, based on these weird small updates we've gotten, should be able to cut back. I don't think they can get smaller. I want them to keep Mason Plumlee. Tice has been great. Trade Tucker for a fax machine and a cup of coffee or something.
It's not as if they might be able to find another big that you can throw out there for 10 minutes a game if you need to. Maybe Dwayne Dedman, who knows? But somebody else on a minimum, and you still have a piece to move possibly for an upgrade at the 4 spot. Just to have that option of playing a little bit bigger with the starting unit. Because right now, it's still Kawhi Leonard guarding Julius Randle last night. That's what we're witnessing.
Sure.
So who do you want?
I don't know who that guy is at this point at the 4. I'm just saying there's this outcry of support. They still have to. I mean, the initial question was they still need an upgrade at the 4. So how do they get that done? Who are their trade pieces? If Norm isn't one of them, I'm just trying to rationalize this and think through it. It might turn out to be Mason Plumlee.
But that's where my head's at, because I'm like, if it's Mason Plumlee, then I don't think they should do the trade. Because it's like
depends on who is for. If Mason Plumlee is playing 15 minutes a night at most when he comes back because of Daniel Tice.
Right. No, I mean,
I don't know. There's going to be a minutes crunch.
There definitely is a minutes crunch. So Anthony Ludi asked us, when he comes back, does Mason Plumlee drop off of the rotation with Tice playing so well? Kind of what happened with Bones. Like, that's a good question too. How much time do we work back in Mason Plumlee? If the team is rolling, you know what I mean? With this, like, obviously, I don't think they're going to win every game until Mason Plumlee comes back. That would be awesome. I would take that. But if this team is like on some crazy heater and the net rating is out of control, kind of no matter who's on the court, how do you work Plumlee back in? This isn't a giant problem, but this is a great question from Ludi. Like, where are we at? How do we work Mason Plumlee back into this lineup?
Well, I mean, it'll probably take him a while to get up to speed anyways. So you have that time, right? And I think, it has been established enough in the locker room that nothing is really earned in terms of where you are in this rotation. I mean, even Kobe Brown, which I guess was never a guarantee, but pretty quickly found his way out of the rotation. So I don't think that it's going to be, I don't think that that's like that big of a concern for me. Just because of the way that he has fit with the Clippers thus far. But yeah, and you just have the opportunity to work him in some minutes. I guess the only thing that's troubling is how late is he back in the season, right? Because then, I mean, with how long some of these sample sizes can take with Ty Lue, which is not a complaint, just a fact.
Sure.
That's going to be very, very difficult.
I was just looking at the minutes. Daniel Tice is at 16 per game as a Clipper. Mason Plumlee was at 17 this season, at 19 last season as a Clipper. So if you just split those up and go, oh, okay, one of you gets 8, the other gets 7 a night, and we see who's hot and maybe roll with them.
I'm with it. I love that idea. That seems like, a platoon. Let's do it.
I don't know if either of them are going to be happy doing that.
But if the team's winning and they're playing well,
I don't know that it works.
I think Plumlee will be happy with it.
I don't know that it works. I just so you're going to how are you going to have a rhythm if you're not sure how many minutes you're going to, like a ballpark of how many minutes you're going to be playing on a night, and you're going to find rhythm with 8 minutes in a 48-minute game? I just don't see it. I just don't see it.
That's a good call. That's an issue we've seen before with this Clippers roster in the past couple of years.
Did they trade Daniel Tice?
Can they?
Have they rebuilt his value enough to be able to trade him at the deadline and get something decent at a wing position?
Can they trade Tice?
Wing position? That's a good question too. Some of this could be. No idea. It could be matchup dependent on who they're playing that night. If they're playing a bigger team, then they go with Mason Plumlee. What if Mason Plumlee has, because he's pretty good in the pick and roll, what if he has great chemistry with James Harden? We haven't seen those two together yet.
That's true. Someone also asked, what does Amir getting minutes at the backup 4 mean for Plumlee's return? People were worried about Plumlee on this mailbag edition, which is cool, but surprising.
Amir took Kobe Brown's minutes.
Yeah, Amir took Kobe Brown's minutes, which makes sense.
Yeah, I don't really see the correlation.
And I think those two are interchangeable for Ty Lue. If one of them has the hot hand,
I'm hoping it's a lot more Amir. I like Kobe Brown, but he's just young. Amir has earned it. He's been here for how long? He's 26 now. If not now, when? When are you going to use him? You
And he's
get
been good.
you have enough confidence to start him in
Yeah.
for Paul George in a game, and he plays great against Golden State, and they probably don't win without him. And then last night he gets 15 minutes. Kobe Brown doesn't play till the very end during garbage time. It looks like he
Hit a
has
three,
taken
though.
the Brown minutes.
Kobe Brown, he had 2 threes. Let's get the stats a little right. Now, you're not wrong. I'm an Amir Coffee fan too. Case the Kid asks, if the Clippers start blowing teams out in the first 2 quarters, which in the modern NBA, I don't know if a game is over after the first 2 quarters, no matter what the score is.
It's not. Yeah.
What younger players would you like to see play the most minutes? Bones, Boston, Musa, Brown,
Bones,
or Amir?
Bones. You don't even have to read all of them. Bones.
It's Bones. I want him to come back. He's questionable, I think, for this upcoming game. He's got the hip, something. I think it's his hip or something. But I want Bones to be healthy. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it seems like he's picked up some knocks, which I just feel bad about. That sucks. But
I really don't want him to end up being the trade piece. You know,
his value is weird though, because it's like, yeah, I don't know.
I think teams gotten enough tape on him though to know the potential. Like, he would be sought after. I think
you might be right. I think there's a thread maybe to
the word's
there.
out. The skeleton key is out.
The key has been copied. I think once we get closer, because what is it, January 15th? A lot of contracts can start being traded. I think if you're a listener who listens to a lot of these episodes, I would maybe start putting your ear to the ground for Bones Highland trade chatter around mid-January. Because I don't like the idea of trading Bones, but Adam, I like the idea you had of him maybe being the trade piece.
Can I just tell you how much I dislike talking about trades right now when the Clippers have won 7 straight? Jesse Beer hit me up on Twitter like a week ago. What do you think about bringing in Jeremy Grant? And it's like, dude, I'm worried about what they got going right now, and they can't get him till January if that's even possible. And he's got a huge contract. Can we just talk about the team and what they're trying to do at the moment?
The grass is always greener. Will and I always used to talk about on Locked On Clippers that with Clippers fans, because of how the injuries work right now, it always feels like the grass is always greener. Someone after Amir's performance tweeted at our show account at ClippersPod on Twitter, should the Clippers just start Amir instead of Terrence Mann? And it's like, no, they should not do that.
I had a call last night about that. I'm like, no, Terrence Mann is your point of attack defender. The reason why Kawhi Leonard looks so good in the fourth quarter defensively is because in the first quarter, it's all Terrence Mann for the most part guarding their best perimeter player.
Yeah.
That is invaluable. That's everything.
Can we just bask in the sun and the sun rays of this Clippers stretch of play? Let's just take a beat. All right, last question before we get to the very difficult upcoming week for the Clippers. Optimus Prime Rib, one of our favorite names on Twitter.
Great.
I want 213 at the Intuit Dome. What would have to be the absolute floor at the end of the season for this to happen? Will, we'll go to you.
It's an inevitability. We talked about this even when things were going poorly. There's just, unless they got like a wild hair at the trade deadline this year or in the off season, and they were like Kawhi and Paul George are back to peak value. Let's see what we can get. Which I don't see happening. Right. I just think that like the actual outcome of this season is going to be sort of irrelevant. I think that those 2 players are going to be there to open Intuit Dome. That is definitely the plan. Now Harden becomes a third priority in that. And so, yeah, we'll see. But like, you got to have the names, man. You got to have the names, and the Clippers. How else are you getting them? Who else are you getting? Right. Because you don't even have assets to make something happen. Like you don't even have assets to make something happen, right? It'd have to be you'd have to outright sign somebody. And I just don't. What bigger free agent are you getting this year?
2 California guys. Yeah.
So I don't think the results. I mean, the results matter to us. Obviously, the results matter, but it doesn't. It's irrelevant to the opening of Intuit Dome unless one of them dies or has a bad sex scandal or something.
Damn. All right. Some off-court stuff. Some unreleased audio or something. Adam, you look confused. We're going to go ahead and jump off that point.
I blacked out for a second. there's this disconnect between people's understanding of the salary cap and thinking, well, if we lose Kawhi and his $45 million, then we can just spend that. No, you could go over the cap to re-sign your own guys. You had his bird rights. It's not the same thing. And it's hard to find these big name free agents anymore. It seems to always be happening through trades now, especially with the new CBA.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's not going to be anyone out there of the level of players that the Clippers already have in-house that they could realistically bring in. If you want to compete, these are the guys you're rolling with. That's the option if you want to compete right now.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like the best players in the league are locked up. They stay locked up, even if they're going to demand a trade 1 year into a 6-year deal. Like it's just what happens. It's just what happens. Like you are locked up. So trade is really the only way to acquire a player of that caliber.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's, again, things are going so well right now that like there isn't a floor. Like they're gonna be there. 2 of the 4 California guys will be there, and my best guess is it's the 2 best ones. Which is Kawhi and Paul George.
Why do we have to jump to, so who should we make trades for? So what's the worst case scenario?
Greener, Adam, you don't get it. It could always be better.
There's a freaking septic tank underneath the grass with the way that people are talking about it, right?
You ever been to a store and said, wow, I like that item? Well, what if this one that I don't buy is even better?
It's just amazing to me. Like a couple of weeks ago, you're just worried about winning a game. Now they win 7 straight, 12 of 15, and the talk is, but what if we do this? Like, what if we can improve it this way? Yeah, let's reshuffle the deck. No, we actually are getting some consistency and continuity built up with this team right now for one of the first times ever in the 2-1-3 era. Kawhi just played 25 games straight. Paul George played 24 of 25. James Harden hasn't missed a game yet. Guys, enjoy this. Stay here. Stay in the present.
Adam Osmond saying, enjoy this to all of the Clippers fans. Coming up, we're going to be talking a week that might be kind of difficult to enjoy. We hope the process is very good. The Clippers take on the Pacers, Mavs, and Thunder. I think it might be a 3-4. We're going to be talking about that after this next ad break. The ads have been loud for some people, so if that's been the case for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back in. Clips and dip. I'm Adam Oslin. We did not have a double dip last night, unfortunately. My fault. Humility season. My fault. Clippers on a tough 3-game road trip starting in Indiana. And they were in the in-season championship game recently. And that's very meaningful because, oh, wait, the Lakers have lost 2 of 3, I think, since then. No, it still means something. For a team like that, that's actually exactly what the in-season tournament was for because a lot of people got familiar with Tyrese Halliburton outside of, the guys on TNT and Shaq calling him Trey. I was telling everybody in the break room, Trey is the real deal. No, sorry, my name's Tyrese. So
that's terrible. I didn't know that happened. That's
awesome. That happened. That happened after they took down the Bucks to get to the championship game. Shaq was interviewing Tyrese. He's right in front of him, and he called him Trey. And Ernie Johnson had to correct him. But the Indiana Pacers played a breakneck pace. It's appropriately so because they are the Pacers. They have the best offense in the league. They have a historically great offense currently. They're also tied, though, their offensive rating right now with the Philadelphia 76ers, which is pretty wild. I didn't know Philly was buzzsawing through teams like that offensively, but I know Joel Embiid has just been crazy good recently. Is Halliburton playing, though, is the question. He had a knee contusion.
Yeah.
You missed their last game. Have you seen an update on that, Chuck?
I have not seen an update on that, but if I were...
He is doing ads for the Meta headset, though, which... Man, I'm glad that he's getting the check. I was thinking about this. Like
maybe
Tyrese,
somewhere else.
Tyrese deserves the checks. I think his agent needs to get him better deals than that because it's already over. They already said it. Like they're not developing the metaverse. Web 3.0 is not happening.
Are we a Web 3.0 pod? I'm into that. If I were the Pacers, I would hold Trey. I would hold Trey out of this game.
Easy, Shaq.
Disrespectful. I would hold Tyrese out of this game. It's a Western Conference opponent. Your team is very good. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. hold them out.
Well, they're what? They're 28th defensively, but they
Sure.
showed flashes during the in-season tournament where all of a sudden they were playing better on the defensive end and they were giving this great effort, and that's part of the reason they got to the championship game. They're just scary to me because if they get on top of you in the first quarter, if you start slow, it could be over. Yeah. I know we just said no game is over in 2 quarters in this NBA, but if you're taking on the Indiana Pacers,
yeah, except for our team.
Well, hey, the Clippers just put up 77 points and 144 recently, and the offense is obviously thriving, but I do not want to see them get down double digits in the first quarter in Indiana to start off this road trip because they are just relentless and do not let up.
Yeah, I think you're right. That would not. So we need the starters to be what they've been, which is very good. And like you mentioned the last segment, we need Terrence Mann's point of attack defense. Even if Tyrese isn't playing, we need someone there to make it a little bit harder because then Zubac's job gets a lot more important if Tyrese isn't there. Because Miles Turner is probably going to want some kind of lick back for what Zoo did to him inside crypto. Was that last year where he had to send the ball to the Hall of Fame because he had 30 and 30 or 31 and 29 or something like that? Like, there's going to be some extra motivation, I think, for Miles Turner too, especially if Halliburton's out. So I hope the Clippers defense can start off strong, like you said. I'm not too worried about the offense based on what Indiana does on that side of the ball.
You know what else is worth pointing out regarding the Clippers and first quarters, and I've been guilty of this too, humility season, but they've been much better in first quarters so far this season. And there was a lot of narrative, big picture talk about, well, you have to start Russ because he plays faster and he plays with more energy and more pace. And if you don't, they're going to get off to slow, lethargic starts with James Harden. And while they've recently been bringing in Russ about 5 minutes into first quarters, it seems like the ultimate oversimplification, right? Like, well, Russ, look, he runs really fast up and down, and that means the Clippers will get off to faster starts because of that. But that's not necessarily how it works. But I looked at some of their first quarter numbers, and they're top 10 in net rating. They shoot a really high percentage from the floor in first quarters. They have been starting off very well overall. We have all this PTSD from past seasons and how many times they've gotten off to slow starts to the point where even Kawhi Leonard said it in a post-game interview recently, like, I know we get off to a lot of slow starts, and somebody could have been like, Justin Russo, hey, actually, check out these numbers right here. You guys are doing much better.
It is true, like
historically. But this season, different team. They have James Harden now, and they've been better in this area. I just want to point it out because it's starting to become a false narrative where we always think, oh, the Clippers get off to notoriously bad starts, but they've been much better recently against good teams.
What's one big thing, Will, that you want to see the Clippers do in this Pacers game?
Win.
God damn it. Other than
a good answer.
Although if they were to drop one out of these three,
I'm disagreeing.
I'm fine if it's a fully healthy Pacers team, I would be if they have to lose one of the three, right? Just because it's so many games so close together, I would be fine if this was the game.
The process is good, and they get run out, they get beat in a close game or something like that with that 5-point home advantage bump or whatever, or something like that. I think you're right. I think I'm okay with it.
Keeping the Pacers under 120 would be nice. How about that? That's what I want to see.
Okay, I like that. That's some good process from the defense that maybe something to think about as we move forward. Adam?
Top 5 defense last 15 games with the new starting lineup. And I know Paul George missed one of them, but they have been tremendous on that end. I just want to see him lose with style. No, I don't want to see. That's not what I want.
Finger rolls in the loss.
No, start fast, be in the ball game, because offensively, if they start fast, I'm less worried about their defense.
Well,
I feel like it fuels their defense and their energy and motivation on that end. It's also just about Kawhi Leonard with how hard he is playing and how vocal he's being on the court. It looks like Carlo Jimenez and I were talking about this last night. It's not just about them staying locked in for games. They're not losing focus between possessions right now.
Yeah.
That's how glued in they are, this team. That's what's popping and standing out to Clippers fans and why this feels like, wow, this is one of the better stretches in the 2-1-3 era. They look very serious every single possession. They are going really hard out there. And you couldn't say that, especially last season. Their defense was basically bottom 10, even though their offense got much better. And Kawhi's on this historic run, as he is again last year. They weren't winning as many games as they should have been because defensively they weren't good enough. Now it's starting with their defense, and it's not just a message or a talking point or something during training camp that falls on deaf ears once the regular season starts. They're there. They are present in every game defensively and getting off to that defensive mindset or defensive intensity in first quarters that Coach Lou said a million times last season, and it didn't get across to him. Now it is.
All right, most important part, player of the game picks. Adam, who is your player of the game pick for Clippers versus Pacers? It's got to be a Clippers player.
I'm going to go with Daniel Tice on a revenge mission against a team that wasn't playing him. He's got a chip on his shoulder. I was thinking he or Paul George, but I'll go with Daniel Tice in this one. A little vanilla Tice going up against the Indiana Pacers who disrespected him. And I can't say enough about how good he's been as a Clipper so far, the way he plays and what a godsend he's been. It's almost like Hardenstein light having Daniel Tice. It may not even be that light if you look at the performance between those two yesterday. He's doing some of the stuff that Isaiah Hartenstein did for this team a couple of years ago.
He is. He's a better rebounder, not as flashy of a passer, but he is probably better at things that help you win basketball games. Will, player of the game pick for Clippers versus Pacers.
I'm gonna go Paul George. But not like a good game.
Like
I want to
40?
see.
Oh.
Yeah, I want to see him kind of go off on the Pacers.
Okay, that's legit. They're gonna boo him for no reason. That's a good pick. I went with Russ last time, which happened to be right. I'm going to go James Harden bounce back efficiency game. He shot 33%, only shot 25% from three in the last game. He was still very good. He
took 6 shots.
I'm picking my player of the game. Can I pick my player of the game? I thought it was humility season. I'm excited to see James Harden have an efficient game against the Pacers. Apparently, some people aren't. That's what I'm looking forward to. James Harden, he's going for it's gonna be him and PG combining for 64 is what's gonna happen, and it's gonna be obviously efficient.
A little N64, a little.
Sure, he's the system. Oh. All right, and then we have this schedule's brutal. Mavs Thunder back to back Wednesday and Thursday. Mavs are not gonna have Kyrie, most likely. We kind of have the blueprint to beat them. I believe this is the first matchup against the Thunder. Fellas, what are we thinking about this back-to-back? This is a damn gauntlet right here.
That's why I was saying, if we drop the Pacers game, but somehow won both games of this back-to-back, that would be that to me would somehow be even bigger. It would be as big as the 7-game win streak almost.
Okay, I can see that in terms of how these two teams are playing right now and all that stuff. Adam, where are you at? How are you prepping for this? This is going to be a stressful back-to-back.
I think they need a win in Dallas because OKC legitimately scares me.
Okay.
And just getting them on the second night of a back-to-back, that's what it is, right? Dallas on the front end, OKC on the back end.
Yep. Let me check the Thunder schedule because I haven't.
That's why I'm saying more impressive than a 7-game win streak. Winning this back-to-back would be nuts.
Oh, and the Thunder have a lot of time off. The Thunder play on Monday. They don't play us until Thursday. So they have a lot of time off.
Well, you mentioned the OKC nightlife earlier.
Hey, it's electric over there. Well, and same with the Mavs. So we're getting teams on 3 days rest. 1 on 3, 1 on 4.
OKC just scares me a lot more than the Dallas Mavericks at this point, even if Dallas had Kyrie Irving. And maybe that's recency bias because they held him to 88 points at home in a good victory over them on a back-to-back. But, yeah, I agree with – I don't know if we talked enough about Paul George, Will's pick against Indiana. He was really good yesterday in the second half. I think he had 19 of his 25 points in the second half, and he was
half. People he's still hurt, and then he just lit it up in the second half. And it's this is what coming back from an injury is like. He was
destroying RJ Barrett, just crossing him over left and right, getting whatever shot he wanted. It was some nasty stuff from PG-13.
I did that the Knicks Film Room podcast with Anthony Claudio. There's a group of Knicks fans who like love RJ Barrett and are like, it's called like the Barrett Hive or something. He says they're terrifying. It's like their version of the Russ stands, but a way worse player than Russell Westbrook and RJ Barrett. So I hope Anthony's doing okay with all that stuff. Will, which are you most worried about? I like the idea of that we should win in Dallas because the rest and all that stuff, like the Thunder are firing on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the rest disparity against the young team. I mean, OKC has to be the more dangerous of the two games. Although, a shorthanded Dallas, I mean, you could get lured into something.
That's true.
Luka's getting 45.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
you got to slow down everybody else. He's going to be pissed after the last game against the Clippers if he hasn't been pissed since 2020, 2021. Like it's all fuel for him.
That's a good call. Yeah. So you're saying one-on-one with Luka, don't let the assist numbers go up. Like we were talking with Jokic. Keep the assists below the season average.
Can't let him be a scorer and a playmaker to that high of a level.
And then with the Thunder, defensive assignments get really interesting. There's a lot of pressure on Terrence, I think, in this Thunder matchup. We know he can switch and all that stuff, but he's going to be switching a whole bunch as the Clippers switch a lot. And like I'm excited. I'm really excited for these, I guess, from like the neutral-ish perspective that I have. But the defense that the Clippers throw out against the Thunder is going to be as close as what we've seen so far this season to what we're going to see in the playoffs, I think. Because of the Thunder being so good, and they want to, make this an interesting game, hopefully.
How good has James Harden been at times? It's not always 48 minutes or how many he's out there, 35. But he's had some really good defensive possessions for the Clippers over the last week, guys. Eye-opening stuff.
Unbelievable.
He's looking like Rocco with his hands. The swipes he had at the end of the game against the Golden State Warriors were game sealing or saving. They were that important. He had 4 blocks in that game. It's crazy the level of effort he's put in on the defensive end so far as a Clipper. Pretty consistently during this winning streak. There haven't been a ton of those defensive lapses where you see the same play on Twitter over and over of people saying, "Oh, look at James Harden getting beat on the perimeter." Yeah. He's been good, man.
Well, it's crazy. The Thunder have just around the same amount of assists per game as the Clippers do. We're right around like 25, 24-ish, which is interesting.
SGA ISOs a lot. I mean,
yeah. And the Thunder do not turn it over. They're 4th in turnovers. It's only 13.
We're still at 24 a game. That hasn't gone up at all.
No, it's like we're right around 24, 25.
That surprises me a little.
But they're number 1 in fewest turnovers over the last 15 games, the Clippers. They only had 6 last night.
It's
been tremendous. Yeah. James Harden has 12 assists to 1 turnover. 15, I think, to 4 the game before that. They're taking care of the basketball at an all-time level for the 2-1-3 era right now.
And they have to in these 3 games. We cannot give these. I mean, now we're talking about the back-to-back. We cannot give these teams easy buckets.
Honestly, that's probably the best point, Chuck. If they're going to have a chance to win 2 of 3, it starts with them taking care of the basketball the same way they have over the last 15. Because Indiana's going to get in transition, Dallas some too, OKC for sure. And to your point, the defense last night against the Knicks, the one blemish you could say was the Knicks, I think, had 21 fast break points, and the Clippers did give up a couple of easy ones in transition.
Yeah. And the Thunder, I mean, they let teams take threes. Like they give up the second most amount of threes per game, but they're top 10 in 3-point percent. Like Clippers got to be tight. This is an interesting one, I think, for this podcast. Who's our player of the back-to-back? Who's going to have 2 great performances in this back-to-back to either split or lift the Clippers?
I mean, it's got to be Kawhi.
Fair.
Can't pick him.
Adam just said
he's God tier. That's too easy.
No, you can't pick Kawhi. Zoo's gonna be Zoo's gonna have to have like 13 boards in each of these games. Like for things not in a bad way, he can do that. But we're gonna need a big presence down low to start. Like we know he's gonna be matched up on Luka at some point. Like Zoo's gonna be, other than Kawhi, Zoo's gonna be very important in this one.
I'm going Terrence Mann. 2 of 4 from distance against the Knicks. And there were big shots. I believe both of them came the end of the second quarter when the Clippers went on that 20-5 run to end the first half.
Right.
And he had turned one down on the right wing. There was a timeout after the Knicks were making a run. And then 1 or 2 possessions later, he took one on the right wing and knocked it down. And obviously, Dallas will light a fire under Terrence Mann. It's a back-to-back. You're going to need some young legs. Terrence Mann has that, and he'll also be the guy, point of attack defense against SGA to start things off against OKC. If they're going to have a chance to win one or both of those ball games, really all three, Terrence Mann might be my key for this road trip, honestly. If he starts knocking them down from the outside, guys, the starting lineup can still be better, and their numbers are already ridiculous now. Over the last 14 games with the new starting lineup, because Paul George missed one of them, so it's not 15 games, but 14. Sure. Offensive rating, 123. Defensive rating, 107. 16.2 is their plus net rating out there, but they've been shooting 53% from the field and 43% from three in 14 games with the new starting lineup and Terrence Mann, even though he hasn't shot it well. They're shooting 43% with him. Shooting what, 20% from the outside right now? What if he gets on a heater?
I think Norm in the back-to-back. I think he has to go. I think he ends up going nuclear in one of the games, and I would put it in the OK. I would put it in the OKC game just with some tighter legs. I would think that he's going to get some more shots. And Dallas does still have some good wing defenders, so I don't know if he'll get uncorked in quite the same way in that game as the potential for that OKC game.
It's going to be a fun week of basketball. Going to be a good time. Adam, I was going to have you kick it over to you, say something positive, but the tirade about the starting lineup was so good.
I was actually going to bring up a concern that eventually comes around to being positive.
Let's talk about it.
I have been concerned that, okay, what happens if Kawhi doesn't shoot 63% from the field over the next couple of weeks? What happens to some of these wins? But the truth is, James Harden can still be much better. Like, if you're thinking there's going to be some regression because they're playing so much above their head, not really. Kawhi is on an all-time tear, but Paul George can be better. James Harden can be better. Russ is getting better in his role off the bench. I just mentioned Terrence Mann. If he starts shooting it well from the outside, Ivica Zubac, I don't think is going anywhere from the production we've been seeing because he's next to James Harden now. Like, this group, they're only 20 games in with James Harden. There's no reason to think that they've peaked early yet, is my point.
There we go. We haven't peaked early. It's the dream. We're peaking at the exact right time. Who doesn't want that? We're going to have some double dips this week if we can get fit into the busy schedule over on AM 570. Adam does a fantastic job. Listen pre and post game. Also listen to Carlo Jimenez, friend of the show. Great commentator. They have all what you need on game days over at AM 570. Tripod on Friday. Could be fun. I don't know. Could be a fun time. Call me crazy.
Last one before Christmas, huh?
Yes. Reviews help us. Subscribers help us over on YouTube. Shout out to everyone who's new, who likes to watch us talk to each other. It's a good time. Adam, you've already said a wonderful positive thing. Will, anything to say for Montana? How's the Clippers contingent in Laurel, Montana? Have you seen a lot of Clippers fans out there?
I have not.
Damn. All right. Well, we got to do an Operation Dumbo drop for some Clippers gear over there. Drop it out of a big plane or something. Thank you to everyone who's listened to us. You can find us on Spreaker, Deezer, iTunes, Spotify pods. Am I missing anything?
No, that's
what's Rod at?
Buy his book. Buy Rod's book. He came on a Clippers podcast to promote it, and he said bad things about the Clippers. That means he believes in his art. We will be back with y'all. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season and a great evening. And as always, let's go Clips.